Welcome back. In this video, we are going to see some of the practices that can be used to build knowledge within the company. Right? One of the important issues that any of the companies for that matter faces is there is a lot of knowledge available within the company, but most of this is not visible from outside the organization from per se. So, how do you do knowledge management within the company? How can you share knowledge within the company? How one team's problem solutions can be used by some other teams within the organizations? So, one of the effective ways that we are going to talk about is community of practices. Community of practices is not only helpful in building that particular knowledge, but also from agile point of view, community of practices also helps in sustaining the agile transformation. What exactly is community of practices, right? Community of practices is nothing but a group of people with common interest on any particular subject will come together and discuss about the topic, how they share the knowledge between each other, how they grow by sharing what they have learned with the other people inside the within the company. Like for example, say I am an agile coach, right? So I can form a community of practices of agile coaches where bi-weekly, weekly or monthly once we get together as a community, and whatever new learnings we have by execution of different projects, we come to this platform and talk about a particular topic and share knowledge amongst the peers. And not only that, community of practices also, for example, if I am a Java developer, I can also attend the community of practice of SQL, for example, right? So, community of practices is where like I can volunteer to join in any of the communities that is available within my organization. For example, if I am a Java developer, I can express my interest in joining a group which is of SQL, right? So there is no restriction in terms of what an individual, which group to join, but it's just an open community where people can get together and learn from any of the topics that's happening around the world. Like for example, let me give you an example. When we start off with agile transformation, most of the teams follow a similar kind of impediments. Like for example, say some of the middle management is resisting for agile, right? Now within your company there could be some other team who would have cracked this solution for this particular issue. Now what you can do is you can talk about what has been done by the other teams to resolve a particular issue, and those becomes a starting point for the new teams to go ahead and try some of these experiments in resolving the impediments which they are seeing with agile transformation. So this is just an example. You can also think about, for example, in one of the teams they have implemented TDD, and there is another team which is struggling with implementing TDD. So what are some of the things that this team would have done so that they have succeeded? They can take those practices and try to do those experiments with the other teams and see what best they can do in order to address that issue of not doing TDD properly, right? So these are some of the examples and a powerful tool which you can make use of for spreading knowledge within the company. The other beauty of community of practices is it also gives you a kind of shared understanding in terms of modern practices, how they have been implemented, what can be done, so that we can also implement those practices, right? So that's the whole crux of community of practices. Similarly, in modern times, I have seen that people have been using something called as meetup groups, where people come together and discuss on one particular product, problem statement, or share their knowledge in terms of any latest happening in the industry, right? So this is similar to that, but the teams within the organization, they can also form the meetup groups in order to have these kind of discussions. The other tools that I can talk about is making use of Lean Coffee or World Cafe. These are some of the examples which you can make use of for creating that shared understanding and spreading the knowledge across the company. So we should talk about how do we set up a team room setup, right? So that it builds that individuals and interaction. Also, it builds the shared understanding, right? So basically, what we say is the entire team should be co-located, sitting at one particular place, having the visual boards set up. So if you see, look at the picture, right? So all the team members are sitting at one place, and you could see that there are lots of charts at the background which shows that what is their product backlog and how they are doing in terms of information radiators that can be set up within the team room space. So generally you should set up a team room in such a way that people are able to work together as a team, and at the same time, if the team wants to do meeting or something, they can quickly come together, huddle at one place and have those discussions as quickly as possible, rather than going there searching for meeting rooms to conduct those specific discussions related to the meetings, right? So as an example, you can see in the picture that this is how a team room should be set up. So some of the things which you should be having in your team room setup is you should have a visible task boards. You should have a place where people can pair with each other and work on a given common task. There should be a whiteboard so that the discussions can happen over a whiteboard, and whatever decisions they are going to take can be captured as part of a screenshot and uploaded into a wiki page. There should be a common area where the team can actually do a daily scrum effectively, along with having the physical task boards which will have which can be used during the daily scrum. There should be some fun element, not only work, right? So the team should be able to have some gaming area nearby, right? So you should be basically having a room in such a way that there is also a privacy for team members where they can do their own work individually, and at the same time have a space where there is continuously discussions happening between the team members and team is working as a collaborative fashion. So let's talk about some of the collaboration techniques that can be used for shared understanding and shared decision making. One of the techniques that we are going to talk about here is fist of five, which is basically a technique which can be used to collaborate between the team members. For example, say there is a question that you have laid out a plan in terms of how do you want to execute a given iteration. Now you want to check within the team members how sure that this particular plan is good enough, or whether the team is confident enough to achieve the required outcome with this particular plan that they have created. All they have to do is raise their fingers, and with the count of 3 they have to say whether they will go with option 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 indicates that they are pretty confident with the plan, they are pretty confident with achieving the desired outcome. Similarly, 1 means they are least confident of whatever we have come up with the plan. So every individual will actually get an option at the count of 3 to give that vote of confidence, and then based on what we see, we can then deliberate and make our plan better if the team is really not confident about the plan that they have created in the first place. So fist of five is also a technique which also kind of gives you a help to build that consensus within the team. So this is one of the techniques that can be used in the decision making process as well. So let's talk about some of the other techniques that can be used for shared understanding. The first one we are going to talk about is co-locate cross-functional teams. As I keep on telling, as a agile team, the team should be co-located, having one particular team space. The team should be cross functional, which means that whatever skill set are required to produce a required outcome, all those skill set has to be there within the team itself. So if any given particular skill set is missing within the team, they have to look at as a team how they build that particular skill set, so that whenever team needs it, somebody is ready with that particular skills for the sake of the team, right? So this promotes the shared understanding between the team members. So the team should be co-located, this team should be cross-functional, the team should be an autonomous team. There should be dedicated team members. Don't mix and match the team members. Don't break the team members now and then, right? So it's highly suggestible you have a dedicated team members for a long period of time, right? The reason being, every time a new team is formed, every team has to goes through a learning curve, where at the initially there will be dip in the velocity, and then a new status will come only when all the team members are again able to perform as a team, right? So if you're chopping the team again and again, it's going to have a high impact on the overall velocity, and sustainable pace is something which is not producible if you are talking about changing the teams now and then. So we suggest that the team should be dedicated. There should be, I mean, every individual has to be working 100% on that particular project, not a scenario where you see a shared resource kind of a shared person working for different teams. Only there are some roles where that might be required, which is an exceptional, and you have to see what's the impact of such scenarios as well, right? The next practice that helps with shared understanding is daily scrum or daily stand-ups, right? So basically, you know that every day the teams gets together and plan for the day's activities, and also look at the progress, how they are making towards the iteration goals, right? So this is one of the practice which helps in shared understanding. The information radiators are again used as a powerful tools for shared understanding. Code reviews, definitely not the traditional ways of doing code reviews. We have to see how we can actually do it in a better way, like for example using pair programming, right? So it's one of the best and effective ways of actually developing any given requirement for that matter, right? So that you are reviewing at the same time you are building the code. Then parallel testing. Parallel testing is nothing but the testers don't really have to wait for entire code to really come to testing environment to really deploy it and test. How a tester can actually go back, work with the developers as and when the software is getting built. At the same time, they have to be testing and giving that feedback for the developers in terms of the quality of the code that's being written. The next one is having sprint goals, the team goals, the iteration goals. So always a goal is something which actually brings teams together. So that forces a kind of shared understanding as well, because they know that entire team is working towards what particular vision, right? So the entire team should be forced to have written sprint goals or iteration goals for that matter, to help them understand what is that goal that's driving the team. All right. So these are some of the techniques that can be used for demonstrating the shared understanding between the team members, and not only just between the team members, it's also between the business and IT. If you see the diagram, right, the developers as one group, the analysts as one group, testers as one group, DBAs as one group. This is how in traditional ways the organizations were structured, right? In the phase gate approach, each of these groups does their job and hands over the work to the next group based on the next set of activities, right? So this is how you develop in a traditional way of developing software. Now what we say with cross-functional team is you have to bring in all these different skills and make them part of one group, right? This way you can achieve more than working in functional departments. The other way is if you look at from the outcome that a team produces. The outcome is produced only when the collective work of everybody is formed together, and that's when you deliver value to your customer. So individual teams work, for example, development team work, analyst work, testers work, they themselves doesn't give any value for your customer. So if you really want to focus on delivering value to your customer, you should be forming these cross-functional teams where all the skill set which is required is there for dispersal within the team itself, so that team can collectively work on the value that is being produced for your customer. So the entire team have one goal, one value that has to be delivered for their customer, so that the bringing them together will drive the delivery of value rather than delivering specific components of the entire work, right? So cross functional team means you should basically form team where you have all the skill set which is required from project's context to produce the required outcome. So you need to have all the skill set at the disposal within the team. So if any particular team skill set is missing, so one of the team members have to take it up within his hands, develop that skill set which is required for the team. That's how you help each other in a collaborative environment. So this concludes this particular video where we covered how shared understandings can be formed, emphasis of having cross-functional teams in agile projects, right, and doing a knowledge management through community of practices, right. So we saw some of the techniques also that can be used as part of enabling the agile teams to deliver value for the customer. So I hope you like this video. So in the next video we are going to talk about the shift in terms of the mindset of a developer and a tester when it comes to agile ways of working, right. So how some of the individuals and interactions comes into place between the developer and tester, how some of the skills can be used by each other to develop a working high quality product from customer's point of view.